getting closer and closer to the start of the NFL season, 100 days out. And, people start writing articles, making lists, and projecting what's going to happen. And we got an important question, real important question. So from ESPN's Ben Solak, he put out an article, and this is what he says about the Seahawks. The Seahawks offense got a ton of coverage, so we don't need to rehash it all. But when Geno Smith, Tyler Lockett, and DK leave the building for Sam Darnold, Cooper Kupp, and MVS, you're downgrading in my eyes. This has been Solak. The offensive line still has big question marks. Even if rookie Grey Zabel plays well, Coach Mike Macdonald worked wonders with this defense last season and must do it again this year. So our question is, what will impact the CX more, the changes on offense or defensive improvements? That's a great question because we saw this defense play at a high level towards the end of the season, and we felt like if the offense just had one or two more guys on the line, if Geno threw one or two less interceptions, if a play was made fair, if Ken Walker could give the zone a chance before looking for the cutback for the big play, maybe this offense does enough to propel this team into the playoffs. So I'm just going to start with you. What side of the ball do you think will have the biggest impact on this season?
I think the biggest impact will come from the defensive side of the ball. I think this is a unit that will continue to improve. I think it is a group that will go from a team that finished as a good defense last year. I think they make the strides into becoming one of the league's very best. And I think you see guys like Byron Murphy take a step in their development. I think you see guys like Derek Hall and Boye Mafe continue to get better as they're entering year 3 and year 4 respectively. You've got Devin Witherspoon, who I think continues to ascend, and I think he then develops into one of the very best corners in the game. You've got a linebacking group now with way less question marks than you had entering last season, where it was like, okay, you're going to rely upon these two veterans in Baker and Dodson, who their old teams let them go without much fuss. Like, what's that going to be like? And as we know, it was not what Mike Macdonald had envisioned. Now with Tyrese Knight and with Ernest Jones in place, it seems like this linebacking group has a much better identity heading into 2025 than anything that they had going into 2024. You bring in Nick Eamon-Worry as a third safety. Julian Love and Kobe Bryant emerged as the starters at the end of last season. So I think the defense just knows what it is a lot better than what the offense is right now. And I think having that knowledge and having that confidence in the group is going to allow it to elevate to a place that it hasn't been in a long time here. Now, the changes on offense are definitely going to have an impact on what this Seahawks team can ultimately be in 2025. But I just think these changes were necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not to say that it was necessary to move on from Geno Smith and DK this offseason, but at some point you were going to have to decide on both of those guys, whether to extend Geno or whether to extend DK, and they ripped the Band-Aid off and said, you know what, we're going to put those changes into place now rather than wait a couple of years when maybe those guys aren't producing at the same level.
Yeah, I think you make some valid points. It's almost like Mike Macdonald is looking at this defense and admiring it. We've done it before. Guys who have yards, you mow the lawn and you edge up the grass and you sit back and you look at it and you say, you know what? I'm going to add a bush over there and some bark, right? I think that's what he's doing at this point. He's looking at his lawn, and he said, what can I add to the lawn? Maybe some tulips, maybe a tree over there, and then bark it up over there. That's what he's doing. So he's enhancing that defense. So the lawn was a curb appeal, right? When you're looking for homes, the lawn,
this time
give
of year.
you that curb appeal, man. That's the defense right now. And they got to lead the charge. If the defense does not come out and play like a top 10 defense, I think that this team is going to be in trouble simply because we don't know what the offense is going to look like. That is the biggest question mark. Like, I can project. I can say that I think that this scheme is going to help this offensive line. I think that Haynes will have an opportunity to play because of the way I think Kubiak is going to call plays. I think that Arroyo is going to be a good tight end in this offense because we know how much time these guys get. But thinking is not knowing. I know this defense is going to be good. I really do. And with the additions that you just mentioned, you bring over DeMarcus Lawrence. You have Eamon-Worry over there as well. You have the growth, I think, Rick Woolen needs to have a bounce back year. Didn't play horribly, but we still haven't seen that rookie season. But I look at the defense and say, y'all ready to go. I don't know if Sam Darnold is going to come out and be the guy that we saw with the Vikings. I don't know if Cooper Kupp is going to be able to stay healthy and be that number 2. I don't know if Jason is going to be a number 1. I think all of them are capable of doing it, but there's no proof. So you got to look at the defense and say, if y'all don't get it done, the chances of this team coming out hot and rolling are low as heck.
I like the way you put that. I know what the defense can be, and we're still thinking of what this offense can look like. Because you're right. None of us have ever seen what Kubiak's offense looks like firsthand, especially with the pieces in place here in Seattle that he didn't have in place in New Orleans or didn't have in place in Minnesota, his other previous stops, San Francisco. So that is going to be an area where I'm obviously going to hold off on judging until we see, something happen with it. And also with the changes that have been made personnel wise, I don't think this is simply going to be like a 1-year thing with Kubiak the way that it was with Ryan Grubb. I mean, you're on your 3rd different play caller in 3 seasons, 4th in 5 years, if I'm not mistaken. Like that's just too much changeover from year to year for an offense to continue to be successful. Too much changeover if it's not guys like if it's not OCs getting head coaching jobs going forward. Like that's just not going to work here in Seattle if you're just changing your offensive coordinator year after year after year. So I think there's going to be some grace given to the offensive side of the ball. How much of that remains to be seen. I think there's going to be some fair amount of expectations. Like, should Sam Darnold throw for more than 3,500 yards this season? I think so. I think that is a rational, reasonable expectation for Darnold, who has shown himself to be capable as a starting quarterback in the NFL. Yes, he had a ton of help in Minnesota last year, but you look at the guys he's throwing to. JSN had a phenomenal year last year, especially in the second half of the season. And Cooper Kupp has a proven track record in the NFL as being one of the game's very best receivers when healthy, the caveat being when healthy. But I think this Seahawks offense should be a unit that at times this season doesn't worry us, at least doesn't worry us the way it did last year, where it was like, what the heck? Like, you've got all these parts. Why is it not clicking?
I think 3,500 yards for Sam Darnold is a good benchmark. I just as soon as you said it, I had to go look. How many guys threw for over 3,500 yards last year? 18 quarterbacks threw for over 3,500 yards, right? So I think that's fair to ask. Last year, obviously, Darnold was top 5 in the league when it came to yards, 4,319 yards, right below Gino with 4,320. But no, I think that's good. I think the most important part of this offense has to be protection and the run game, because you can't have one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the game again, and you can't not be able to run the football. That was hard for these guys last year. So it's and it's about adjustments too. I know Kubiak had some talent over there with the Saints. I know the record's not going to reflect that. They had some injuries. Obviously, you got Kamara in the backfield as well. MVS was there, and Olave as well. The guys were banged up. And that's another question mark is we're projecting what Kubiak can do. Because if you look at just the stats from the Saints, nothing's going to impress you. You got to read between the lines and dive deeper into this.
Except for those first 2 weeks.
Except for the first 2 weeks. Hey, we thought he was playoff team. Yeah, let's go get it.
He was calling plays like he was the Rams in 2000.
It was like me playing against my son in Madden 4 years ago. He'd be whooping me now. I don't have the execution. Like, I know what to do. I just can't control the players the way I used to control the players, man. Right. I'll call out his defense. This is what you're in. This is what I'm going to do. And I throw a pick.
So, that's it.
That's what it is.
Keep telling yourself
I don't have the game like I used to have. But we're looking at Kubiak, and we're assuming he's going to be able to take this personnel group and make something of it. And it's not a big ask because you are an offensive coordinator in the NFL. You've shown that you have a philosophy that I think works. You have a relationship with Sam Darnold. You know how he works as well. And I think that's key, too. He has his quarterback, a guy that he understands, and that's half the battle. Kevin O'Connell was able to understand Sam Darnold within weeks. Kubiak has had a year or so with Sam Darnold. That relationship is going to be crucial for this offense.
It is, and that's going to separate a lot of what Seattle's offenses were in the past, especially in the recent past, where you have an offensive coordinator that almost handpicked his quarterback this year in Sam Darnold, especially once they pivoted off of Geno Smith. Whereas every other offensive coordinator change that they have made in the last decade plus has always been, well, we have the quarterback in place. Let's go find an offensive coordinator, and they're going to have to kind of mesh their styles. Mm-hmm. Whereas Kubiak knows what he's going to run, and I think Darnold has a good understanding of what Kubiak wants out of the quarterback position. So that should, in theory, eliminate a lot of the learning curve where you have a quarterback and an offensive coordinator who are in lockstep. We have not seen that in a long time here. And now, how much of that was, like Russell Wilson unwilling to change his style for anybody who came around that asked him maybe to do something different? How much of it was Shane Waldron and just kind of his inability to maybe simplify things and make things pretty difficult for his offense at times in terms of just kind of the concepts that he was running out there. I know, obviously, JSN was his memorable quote from the Super Bowl Media Day a couple of years ago where, they asked him about Shane Waldron's time in Seattle, and he just kind of clams up and is like,
Is this live?
Yeah, is this live? Yeah, that's never a good sign. So there is obviously a lot to be desired out of the offense, but I think there is reason for optimism, at least in the short term. I don't know what it's going to look like over the course of a 17-game schedule, but I think right now, considering the position that the Seahawks were in after the DK and Geno trades, they've managed to find a way to make themselves at least competitive this year, which is what you want to see out of this team. You don't want to see them roll over. You don't want to see them just kind of throw the white flag up before the season starts, especially because they're trying to reestablish an identity here. And when you have a defense like the Seahawks have, one that seems to be elevating, you don't want to waste those years. You don't want to waste that opportunity to potentially get to the playoffs and make some noise, because that defense, I think, Bump, is one that could very easily be a playoff caliber defense by the end of this season.
Last year, this defense finished the season giving up 332 yards per game, which is good enough for 12th. Now, we understand in the middle of the season there were adjustments being made, so that number could be skewed a little bit. Last year, in 2023, they gave up 371. The last 3 games of the season, they averaged giving up 293 yards per game. That's the type of defense that you need for this offense, to not feel the pressure to have to score every single possession. That'd be great. We all love it. Love when the offense puts up points, but let's be real. You're going to get about 12 drives per game. You're probably going to score, if you're a good offense, on 3 or 4 of those drives per game. Last year, at times, it felt like Geno had to be perfect, and there was never a time where we felt like the offense and the defense were both clicking at the same time. Like, there were moments, there were series where they go back and forth and things look good, but it's about alleviating some pressure on both sides of the ball. Defensively, that's getting stops, that's flipping the field position. Offensively, that's creating these long drives. And I think that's what this offense is capable of doing. In theory and philosophy, is creating these long drives and still being able to take shots.
It is. Now, one thing that I am concerned about with sort of the splits between the offense and defense here in Seattle is Sam Darnold, even at his best, will turn the ball over.
Yep.
He did that with Minnesota at the end of the season. Even before the end of the season, still had a few interceptions here and there. I wonder, just will this Seahawks defense be able to hold up if the offense is giving the opposition extra possessions? Because as we have seen, it's almost it stinks that, like, let's say you turn the ball over and the opposing offense then is starting their drive at like the 20-yard line and only needs 20 yards to get a touchdown, and the defense allows the touchdown, but it's like that touchdown was more of a result of the offense messing up and more a result of the quarterback throwing the interception or the running back fumbling the ball or whatever. Like, I hope we don't see that a lot this season, where it's like, oh man, like the defense is allowing 30 points a game, but really 10 of those 30 points belong to the offense.
Yep. Giving them a short field.
Right. You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that. So hopefully the defense is stout enough to where those extra possessions that they might have to be on the field for, they can take advantage of. Now, conversely, I'd love to see the defense start to generate a little bit more turnovers here.
With you 100%. I mean, I'll also love for the offense to get inside the 20, not turn it over, put points on the board. I love that. Hey, I love me some Geno. Y'all know I love Geno, but I understand his flaws too, just like my kids. I love my kids. I understand their flaws. It doesn't mean I don't love them. So, yeah. So we're both on the same page. We're thinking the defense is going to have to be the guys to lead the charge.